If this is your world, day in, day out, will you dare dream of a higher education? Find out how one girl managed to overcome the odds.
It was very difficult at the beginning, and I remember myself getting confused with some of the letters because they all felt the same to me.
And how does it feel to have this clever canine be your eyes?
You tell the dog to go forward, she will go forward. But when she realizes that you're going to go forward into a deep hole, she will disobey.
Find out on The 5 Show. Please welcome your hosts, Yasmin Cheng and Chuan Lai.
Hi, welcome to The 5 Show.
Hey, tonight's show is dedicated to our visually impaired friends. Now, most of the time, we're told to look at the world through another person's eyes so that we're able to understand the problems he or she is going through.
In this case, the problem starts with the very first step, because through their eyes, you can't see the world. So you need to start by looking at the ways they are able to see with their other senses and help make things easier for them to help themselves.
Now, in a recent CNA News report entitled Enabling the Disabled, those affected said that while there have been improvements, still more can be done to help. A visually impaired student said he had big problems getting an internship during his final year in his polytechnic studies. 40 companies rejected him.
40!
Yeah.
Clearly more needs to be done to change employer mindsets.
Totally agree with you. Now, anyway, on to our very first story.
Joshua, our reporter for The 5 Show, met up with a young lady who has been blind since birth. But that hasn't stopped her from entering university thanks to her determination and the help of braille.
Hui Xin has been visually impaired since birth, but that hasn't stopped her from wanting to learn. Currently an undergraduate, she's had to rely on braille textbooks provided by the Singapore Association of the Visually Handicapped to help her get through school.
Braille textbooks are beneficial because they allow me to learn alongside my sighted classmates as well as engaging with my teachers in class. The advantages of Braille in general are that reading it gives you a more personal connection and it is easier to comprehend the information.
The learning journey for visually handicapped students start here at the Braille Production Unit. The DPU ensures that every student is prepared for the upcoming academic year. And I'm here to take a closer look at how the Braille textbooks are made. So Ben, first things first, what exactly is Braille?
Braille is a system of dots in patterns where a blind uses the fingers to read and learn.
Each letter and number has a different dot pattern, and this forms the Braille alphabet. So Marianne, what's the first step of transcribing?
The first step of transcribing is when we receive a textbook, put it under a scanner, it will capture the image and the computer will convert it into a text file.
So what happens after scanning?
Okay, scanning is not 100% accurate. Depending on the format, the layout and the graphics. Accuracy is between 50 to 80%. As a result, we need to do editing.
Some common errors made in scanning include letter L becomes a 1, letter O becomes a 0, and the dollar sign becomes a letter S.
It was very difficult at the beginning, and I remember myself getting confused with some of the letters because they all felt the same to me.
So Ronald, what's next?
When the text is finished, it will be given to me and I will translate the text using the Braille translator. After translating it, I will open the file and I will proofread it to make sure that there are no errors in the text.
So Ronald, what happens after the proofreading process?
After the proofreading, I will print the text using the embosser. Once the embossing is completed, I will bind the book and it's ready for use.
Thank you, Ronald. So this is the final product. Of all the hard work we've been through just now, culminates in this book. Thank you, Ronald, for showing me this.
Braille is necessary for literacy because it is a foundation for reading and writing, and unlike audiobooks, it challenges you to spell. Audiobooks and softwares are more formal and they lack a personal connection. And also, I need to constantly play back to get the information. I would like to be a psychologist actually, because I want to help people and give back to my society.
And there goes to show the importance of Braille for the visually handicapped. For the 5 Show, I'm Joshua Tan.
Thank you, Joshua. Wow, she is so positive.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, and she's such a strong girl as well, you know?
Right, and we wish her all the best in her studies.
Okay, so what we saw in the video was how to translate words and simple graphs or maybe shapes into Braille. However, things can get a little bit more complicated when you want to convert pictures or complex diagrams into Braille.
You can't just simply scan the picture into the computer like what we saw in the video just now.
And that's why we've invited a representative from the Braille production unit to show us how it's done. Please welcome Marianne Lowe. Hi, Marianne.
Hi, Yasmin.
First of all, why can't we just simply scan the picture into the computer like you do with words?
Okay, for one, because the pictures come in color. And so when you scan it into the computer and you try to produce it in Braille, it gives you a lot of interference in the background. And so it becomes confusing with too many dots because color would become denser dots on the picture for the blind.
Oh, you don't need the shades of color.
We don't need the shades of color in the background. The main outline, that's right.
I see.
But when you do want to get into the details and all that,
Yes.
how do you reproduce these pictures in Braille?
Here is a textbook with a diagram of the lungs. Right? As you can see, it's quite complex. So what we do, the first step is we produce it into a bigger picture, bigger version, which is using a photocopier to enlarge it. So with this enlarged picture, we put it over this material that looks a little bit and feels a little bit like cardboard. And we put this over it with the carbon in between, so that when we trace on this, it forms an image on this material.
The outline.
That's right, the outline, like this.
Okay.
Okay, once we have the outline, the next step what we do is we use these tools here to help us to add texture to the diagram. So as you can see, some of the texture we have here are the beads, cardboard, sandpaper, and we have tools like the roller, very much like the ones that you use for
cutting
tailoring.
pizza.
A bit, a smaller version. Yes, but more like for tailoring.
Oh, okay.
Yes, that's right. And then what we do for the small little objects, we use the tweezer to pick up these small little things with this white glue, which is bond glue for most art materials so that they can stay on well, and we affix them onto the picture. Wherever we want to add texture, that's what we do.
Okay.
Yeah, we can use beads, we can use cardboard, sandpaper, we can also use thread, even tea leaves.
Right.
Anything that has texture. Sand, yeah, okay, or little small gravels and all that. You can use anything.
Right. It's kind of like creating a piece of artwork, actually,
That's
right?
right, yeah.
It's just making sure that each texture feels different, so it
Different.
indicates something else, right?
That's right. With this is the final outcome.
Oh.
And if we are satisfied with this outcome, what we do is the next step, we have a special material called the braille, which feels like plastic. So we put this braille on top of this diagram, which has already the collage diagram. And then together we put it under a heating device.
Microwave oven.
No, pretty much like that, but it has these heating elements much like your ovenet. Your little toaster ovenet.
Oh, okay.
With those tungsten element.
Toaster?
Like that, that's right, yeah,
but
but much
just not
larger,
that.
much larger, that's right. So we put it under there and
Like
then we
cheese
heat it.
toast.
That's right. It doesn't turn out like very much tasty like cheese toast. So after that, when we put it in the heating device, it melts. So it takes the form of what's underneath. And so this is the final outcome.
Oh!
Okay, review, yeah.
Yeah. It's got bumps and...
Yeah, so this is how they learn. This is the Braille manual diagrams for the blind.
Right, so
Yeah.
when they touch this, they can imagine.
They can, yes, they can map it in their mind as to what the shape is and what the teacher is trying to explain to them.
You know, this takes so much more work than simply
Yeah.
photocopying or printing something, right?
Yes, yes. It's actually quite labor intensive. So we do need a lot of manpower to accomplish something like this. A textbook this is just one diagram. A textbook has numerous diagrams. And it can turn out to be more than one volume, many volumes. So we need a lot of manpower. And so regularly we need a lot of volunteers to come by and help us from all walks of life. We welcome any anyone who's inclined to art, anyone who is comfortable with PowerPoint, come by and visit us and have some fun.
You heard the lady. If you're artistically inclined, why not lend a helping hand to the Braille production unit? Check out their website for more details.
And in a bit, we'll be introducing you to a real beauty, the gorgeous and elegant Gracious. So be gracious, don't go away.
Welcome back to the 5 Show.
So during the break, I went backstage to spend some time with our next guest, the lovely four-legged one.
She is so sweet, so super well behaved, way better than both our dogs.
Oh yeah, totally,
Yeah.
way better than us.
Yeah.
Okay, so how about we bring the gorgeous Gracious and her owner out now? Please welcome Mr. Kwa Ching Hock and his gorgeous guide dog, Gracious.
Come on in, guys. Hi.
And here they are.
Hello.
Good girl. Forward. Find the seat.
Okay, Gracious is going to guide Mr. Kwa to the seat.
Find the seat.
And she does so
Good
perfectly.
job. Come.
Oh, there we go. Oh, and she's a bit cheeky. Okay, Gracious, I think you shall just stay on the floor, okay?
Yeah, no couch for you for today. Not now, at least.
Maybe if you come onto the 5 Show a bit more, we'll let you sit on
down.
the couch, but not today.
Yeah,
Gracious,
Uncle Unlike will
down.
buy you your own little couch.
Down.
Now, Mr. Kwa, you were the first person to bring in a guide dog to Singapore all the way back in 1982. I believe her name was Stacey,
Yes,
correct? Can you
that's
tell us
right.
what happened to Stacey?
Yeah, why did she not, stay with you for any much longer than that?
No pun in the word Stacey, right?
It was unfortunate that at that time, the community was not quite ready for a guide dog. They were more concerned about the guide dog not being accepted, and the policies in Singapore at that time was not quite ready for guide dogs to move around freely in the community.
So were you kind of like forced to send her back to Australia?
No, it was not. It was to a point that I was wasting the life of the dog.
Right.
If
She wasn't
I kept
allowed
on.
to
She was
do-
not allowed to go on the bus, not allowed to go into many public places, and it's impossible to walk 10 kilometers for an appointment. I could walk 1 kilometer, 2 kilometers with the dog, and that was
Right. And she's been
That
trained, I
limit.
mean, she was trained for quite a few years and she couldn't
Yes.
do her job, so to speak,
so it's
right?
better to let her go and help another blind person.
Okay, so you had your second guide dog whose name was Kendra.
Yeah,
but
that was
before
in
we
the
get
05,
yes,
yeah.
before we get to Kendra,
Yeah.
what was it 20 years later that anything specific that made you get Kendra?
Actually, my mind was already focused on I will get back to getting a guide dog eventually. So when you have a goal in life, if you met obstacles like I did in '84, don't give up.
Yeah.
You work on it, believe in your dream, work towards getting it fulfilled, and look at the changing indicators. Well,
That was,
Kendra worked for 9 years with me very successfully. She got many Singaporeans excited about the possibilities of guide dogs working in Singapore, and actually she opened the hearts and minds of many people. Of course, she did open the hearts of our members of parliament in 2005 when she came to Singapore.
Yeah.
Within 6 weeks, she came in August, and by September 19th, the MCYS minister presented to Parliament the policy on the use of guide dogs in Singapore. And it became sort of accepted that guide dogs will be allowed into all places in Singapore that's open to the community and the public. So Kendra came and worked for 9 years for me. Unfortunately, I worked her for too long. I thought she could do full 9 years. And of course, she passed away at the time when I was planning her retirement. So it was a bit untimely. But well, I know that probably I should work Grace for maybe 6 years, 8 years, depending on how her health goes this time.
Right.
Yeah.
Now with your third guide dog, I mean, has the reception towards, when you go out in the public, is it changed? Do you still encounter difficulties?
Oh, it's much, much better than when I started in 05. More places are very receptive now as compared to when I started. But of course, there will still always be that group that will say no to guide dogs. And unfortunately, in Singapore, the frontline staff, meaning the service staff, don't have the concept about dogs and guide dogs. Because the standard operation is they are told no dogs.
Yep.
And they can't understand that there are dogs that can be trained to guide the blind. Or they probably think that this blind man is trying to pull wool over their eye.
Right.
So they will always try to safeguard their job, safeguard not being scolded by their boss. So why bother? Say no.
What is the most common obstacle when you're going out with?
It's human beings. Not the built environment now is quite accessible, in fact, very accessible. It is the attitude of the human beings. But not 100% of them. It's only about 20-30%.
Okay.
Well, how can we change that?
Well, there are many ways to change that by allowing more exposure of guide dogs on your TV program so that people can see it's allowed into all these places.
Like
Maybe we should encourage people at different locations to at least speak out when people say no to guide dogs. We have to go to places where they train their employees to tell them that guide dogs are allowed, meaning bus companies, taxi companies, security guard training companies.
So, Mr. Kwa, I've read online sometimes people with guide dogs actually have problems on public transportation or even things like taxis. Do you encounter such
Yes,
problems?
actually, the most difficult part is taking taxis. It's so much easier to take bus because it's all allowed. So I go on the buses often. But at taxi stands, there will always be taxi drivers that will say no to taxis. On the roadside, they just go past, they don't stop. But at taxi stands, they stop and they will say no to the blind man and the dog.
And you've experienced that?
Yes, quite frequently at taxi stands. But there was one occasion where a lady actually asked me to go before her, and she was going to go behind me after I've taken my taxi. But the driver came and refused to take me and Kendra at that time. So the lady was quite good. She told the driver, if you're not taking this blind man and his dog, which is allowed, you're not taking any passenger from this taxi stand.
Wow.
And she told the rest of the passenger, if this blind man doesn't go, I'm not going. And if I'm not gone, nobody's going to take the taxi until I'm gone.
Wow, so what happened? What happened?
So the driver had no choice. He has to go off. He has to go out of the queue and go one round. And the next driver saw what happened, had to take.
Right.
But there were other occasions, because there was nobody standing up for the blind man and his dog, the first driver said no, he got his passenger, he went off. The second driver says, no, I don't want the dog, he went off. The third taxi came, he went off. Only about the fifth taxi, then I got a taxi.
Yeah, that's the little things
So
that
this
we
is
can
something
do.
that our Singaporeans could mature and stand up for the rights of those who have extra needs.
Let's talk about how you train guide dogs.
I'm not a guide dog trainer, I'm a guide dog handler, but guide dogs are trained more with rewards and praise. So they work for the praise, they work for the reward, and they are not beaten.
No.
They don't like a stern warning, but they don't get beaten for wrong deeds. They are also trained to disobey when it's not safe.
Right.
So
Okay,
you
I get
tell
it.
the dog to go forward, she will go forward. But when she realizes that you're going to go forward into a deep hole, she will disobey. You tell her to go down the step. If she thinks that this step is too deep, for example, you just go down a regular curb, she will go. But from this bench down, it might be too deep to negotiate at one go. Right. So she will keep warning me that it's not so safe. But if she finally has to go, I would have already got a lot of warning. But if it's too deep that we will break our legs, she will not go.
How does she warn you? Does she like bark or what?
No, she refused to budge. Or she will turn away.
Or refuse to budge?
She will not move.
She won't move?
She won't move.
Oh, so that's
Or
how
she will
it's
turn
done.
away. That means instead of going forward, she will turn left. Or if there's enough space between me and the gap, she will turn right and block me and then move away.
Oh. Well, earlier today, we put Gracious and Mr. Kwa through a little obstacle course. We want to just see how well trained Gracious is and how she helps Mr. Kwa navigate. Take a look.
We've created an obstacle course for Gracious. So let's see how well she does. Ready?
Okay, ready?
Ready?
Gracious, forward. Come on, let's go.
Mr. Kwa, I'm
Come on,
over
let's go.
here.
Gracious, forward. Ready? Forward.
Over here.
Gracious, forward.
Over here.
Gracious, forward. Good job. Good girl.
Over here.
Gracious, forward. Good girl.
Over here.
Gracious, forward. Good job. Good
Gracious,
girl.
well done. So
Good
smart.
You know, it got a little bit tricky at some points in time because there's some steps here in the studio, and I was a bit
Yes.
worried. But I think Mr. Kwa could actually figure out where those steps were through the movement of the harness,
yeah.
as well as I think the pitter-patter of her paws.
Right, so when she goes down, you can feel the harness dip, so you know there's
Yes.
a step.
Yeah, and especially going down, she will wait first, then she goes.
Oh, I see.
She's not supposed to rush down any step.
Also, she'll go
She
down
must
and
always
wait.
Stop. Yeah.
Or
no,
does she
stop
stop?
first, then go down.
So she knows, okay, steps coming,
Yeah.
and then she'll go down, then
Yeah.
you know it's going
Yeah.
down. I see. Wow, Gracious is pretty remarkable. She's literally guiding him like a second arm or a second leg or actually no.
Sorry,
third
I
arm,
think he has 2 arms and 2
a
legs.
third arm and a third leg. That's what I mean. I'm bad with math, okay?
You know, Mr. Kwa, Gracious, thank you so much
Thank you
for
very
showing
much.
us how indispensable a guide dog can be. And we hope that more and more public places and people
Yes,
will
more.
understand the role these seeing eye dogs play and amend their rules to allow them on the premises.
Now in a bit, Enlai is going to update us on his volunteer session with Soundball Singapore, the people in charge of blind tennis. Be right back. We're going to just play with Gracious now.
Bye, Gracious.
Welcome back to The 5 Show. Now, sometime back, we did a story on blind tennis. And Enlai here, you remember, you promised that you would volunteer your time to help Soundball Singapore, that's the name of the Blind Tennis Association, during one of its training sessions, right?
Yeah, I remember. And it was really quite amazing and they were so appreciative.
So, feeling the love, are you?
Yep, totally. Anyway, I wasn't the only one who went. There are a number of other awesome volunteers as well.
Let's take a look at what happened when Enlai visited them. Apparently, he had a little surprise in store for them.
Supplies! I've kept my promise, so I'm here with Kenneth at Pathlight School to help out with the soundball guys. So Kenneth, what do I have to do?
Okay, so we'll set up the courts. We'll start off with the nets, and then after that we're going to lay some lines on the floor, and I'll explain to you how that works. For a blind person, the front is their point of reference. So when we put the lines on the floor, we put it right in the middle at the baseline of the court. So they know there's equidistance between the left and the right. So every time they hit the ball, they'll come right back to this default position. So yeah, Enlai is going to be joining us with some of the warm-up, stretching, drill sessions.
You've been visually impaired since birth?
No. Since I was 3 years old.
3 years old?
Yeah.
How was it when you first started?
It was difficult and it was frustrating, and actually there was a stage where I almost wanted to give up, but I guess because I love the game so much that I just wanted to stick to it, and so I just stuck to it, and so that's why I'm here today.
What makes you sort of come out here every Saturday to help out?
I love tennis, and seeing them loving tennis more than me makes me want to come.
Was it easy or difficult at first?
It was difficult because it's so different. Coaching them and coaching other people, you can't say do this, because what does this mean?
Exactly.
Yeah. So everything has to be like translated literally. Yeah. Move your hand back.
Everything's going to be spelled out, right?
Everything has to be spelled out. Like good shot. What do you mean by good shot? Is it near the net? Is it far the net? Is it wide? Yeah.
Everything's completely descriptive.
Yes.
Kenneth, thank you so much for having us here. I want to thank you guys with a little surprise. Can we have the burgers and the onion rings and the fries? This has been quite an amazing Saturday. Spending time with these guys, the players, the coaches, the volunteers, playing soundball. I feel enlightened. I think it's that love that is just beautiful. Well, we had a great time, and those guys really take their training seriously.
I'm not surprised. In fact, they're trying to get blind tennis recognized as an official Paralympic sport, so I really hope this works out for them.
Anyway, Soundball Singapore is always looking out for volunteers to help with the training. So go to their Facebook page at www.facebook.com/soundballsingapore for more details.
Well, that's it for tonight's show. But first, we want to say thank you again to our wonderful guests, Marianne from the Braille Production Unit, and of course, Mr. Kwa and his beautiful guide dog, Gracious.
We'll see you then.
Good night.